Okay, we're on. This is episode number 7.
Hello.
Yeah, this one we're going to touch base a little bit more on theory, but that just to discuss a little bit more of the impact that we can see in our classrooms, right?
Yes. And look, I'm wearing a shirt. I put my Tim Pre-K shirt because I think the topic is very pertinent and it goes along with it.
So, okay, maybe we can start by showing a little image, and that image is going to help us understand a little bit more the topic that we're going to talk today, right? So, we're going to start by discussing a little bit what phonological awareness is and how that is important in the classroom. And do you want me to start talking a little bit about the.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, you
so
can.
phonological awareness, as you can see in the image, if you're seeing us on YouTube. If not, don't worry, this is gonna be in the resources later. It's a big umbrella. So, phonological awareness is everything that is connected to language and not necessarily, and please, not necessarily, no, it's not done with a visual input, right? You don't need
Hmm.
the visual input. This is more of the oral and um, that kind of development, right? So we're thinking about language in a broad sense. So you're thinking about um, the sound of the language, you're thinking about the little parts as well, but not so separated. So you have words in sentences. So when you're thinking about language, when we're talking, we say all the words are connected, but that when we stop and we start thinking about the words in sentences, we're thinking about specific parts of what we're saying. When you're thinking about syllables, so depending on the language, you have a syllabical aspect that's really important. But for example, when we're thinking in English, syllables are not so important. It's not a
Hmm.
syllabical language. When we're thinking about onset and rhyme, so we're thinking about the different parts of the word. So the onset is the beginning of the word, and the rhyme is the ending of the word. And depending on what you change, you're thinking about changing these words, right? So onset can also be thinking about prefixes, and rhymes can be thinking about suffixes and how they change the meaning of the words as well. And when we think about rhyme and alliteration, we're thinking about the specific sounds of the words that are repeated, either the beginning or the ending sound. And then we have phonemic awareness. And in phonemic awareness, we are still working just the oral aspect of language,
Hmm.
but we're thinking about the specific sounds of the words. So, how the words are made. So, if you think about the each bit of the word, you're thinking about phonemic awareness, and the phonemes are the constituents of the words, right? Each sound connected that's going to make the word. So you can play around with the sounds when you're thinking specifically about phonemic awareness. So you're isolating sounds. So, for example, uh, the word cat, separate the sounds. What is the first sound? So you're isolating just the k. If I if I take the k out and what word do I have? So at. Uh, if you are thinking addition, deletion, and substitution, you're playing with that. So if I have cat and I add s at the end, so what word do I have? Cats. If I deletion would be the example that I had before.
Hmm.
So cat, you take the k out. What word do you have? At. And substitution, if I have the word cat and I take the k and I put p, what word do I have? Pat. right? So you're thinking about playing around with this. Segmenting, you're thinking about, for example, compound words, and you have sunflower, two words, sunflower. You're breaking the word in two parts. Blending, when you put the sounds, you break down the sounds and you put them to, you have the isolated sounds and then you put them together. So k, at. If I blend it together, what word do I have? Cat. And isolation would be more of the other way around. So I have cat. What are the sounds that make the word cat? K, at. So when we're thinking about all of this is done orally. And then you might be thinking, okay, but I thought that all of this would be phonics, right? And that is a very common misunderstanding because phonics is whenever you're doing all of this with the written part, right? So
Hmm.
phonics is when you introduce the visuals, the letter uh, in print, right?
Hmm.
Um, okay, I talked too much.
No, I think like why is this so important and why are we going back to this? And I think it's because we are talking about teaching kids how to read, right? This was our topic on our last conversation, and we thought it was important to bring those concepts back because especially when we are talking about bilingual kids and the phonological awareness piece might be different or might be missing when the kids are learning the phonics. And when I asked you, Débora, about like what are we gonna talk, what are we gonna do, and I said that I thought it was important, it's because has been something that we've been missing in my kindergarten class, right? And even in my school, it's a conversation that we have constantly. I don't work in a bilingual setting, like it's not an international school that expect kids not to have English as a first language or not to have English in their homes. But the reality in my classroom is that I have at least 11 out of my 22 kids that are from a different nationality. And well, they might even be American on the paper, but their families, they speak another language, they have a different culture. And then when they come to my kindergarten classroom, even though they have been to a preschool most of the times, we feel that there's a very big difference uh, in a longer time for them to understand like especially when we are playing with the sounds, right? And when we are segmenting and we are deleting, for them it's more complicated to come up with different words. Like I cannot
Mm-hmm.
just say, oh, I have the word cat, do you know any rhyming words? Like they don't know what I'm talking about. So I feel that for them it's a longer process. And in the past, one of the materials that we used to use was one called Dr. Haggerty.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like a space down every single day, 10 minutes routine that it's only phonological awareness, right? And the the explanation for Haggerty to be an a good method, it's because it's like 10 minutes and they are exercising the gray area of the brain. There's something about that that I'm not an expert in, but I do know that it has to do with the movement and the exercises in the brain that helps them come up with the sounds and substitute and change and delete in a faster pace. And that
Mm-hmm.
helps the kids to learn the sounds better. But now with the science of reading and with the UFly, this was taken away from our kindergarten classes.
Mm-hmm.
And we are starting straight with phonics. We do have a phonemic awareness part where we do segmenting and blending. So I say k at, they repeat k at cat the other way around. I don't know how it's showing, but it depends. This is one part of the intentionality, right? We have to do it to the right direction so they know where this word starts.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, or we segment. So I say cat, they repeat cat, and now they segment k at. So this is one part of the 8 parts of the class, but it's the only part where we are actually doing that. There is, when we go to the, there's one other part that is the word work, and we do the word chain. But then it's also writing. It is the
Mhm.
coding, but also writing. So we manipulate magnetic letters, or they have the whiteboard where they write it down, or they are playing with the sounds with me. But it's less oral
It's
and
more applied
more.
already to the writing bit.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is something that we have been discussing. So I think it's interesting just to talk a little bit about, like, how is it different? Because according to what I was researching here, when I asked about, like, why does you fly does not focus on rhyming, and there is no data that proves that because a child was exposed to rhyming, that they're going to be better readers
Mhm.
or they're going to be successful readers. Um, so they do not spend time doing that. But in my kindergarten classroom, I do feel a lot that my kids would benefit
Mhm.
because they don't have the oral input. They have not been raised in the oral input.
Mhm.
They
And
have.
and I think that that is something that we can transfer to lots of different places and contexts because
Mhm,
um, when I started learning about the like researching about literacy, I took one course that was focused on biliteracy, so teaching how to read and write in bilingual contexts. And one of the things that I remember was one teacher. She was responsible for the Portuguese curriculum, and she was teaching the Portuguese curriculum. And she said that she was facing problems as well in Portuguese because kids wouldn't sing and play and know nursery rhymes, the equivalent of nursery rhymes in Portuguese. And that was changing the way the kids came to the classroom and how much that was impacting their uh, reading and writing in Portuguese. And it was their
mhm,
first language. So that is something that it is really sad in a way that a program that is being developed is saying that kids they don't need that, they don't need to spend that time in the classroom, because in a way I think they're missing that bit in the research. They it's new, right? We have to put that in our
yes,
minds now,
yes.
right? We have to put that in
Hmm.
perspective. Science of reading is something that is recent.
Yep.
um it's not even 20 years, right?
No, it's
so
less than that. Yeah.
so we have to understand that it's a new research. They're trying to understand how things work, and they're trying things out and seeing what works better or not. But one thing that I also feel is that whenever I was teaching um, music to my students, that was helping them to acquire vocabulary, to understand the language better, to give them um, even structure, grammar
Hmm.
structure that would help them in their reading and writing process. Because
Hmm.
if you're mentioning your kids that don't have a strong language background,
Hmm.
how can a kid self correct when they are manipulating the sounds
Yes.
if they have never heard the words, right?
Yes.
So, how can they know if that is a nonsense word or an actual word if they don't have knowledge of
If
words,
they,
right?
yes, and that goes, like, I think when we are talking about that at school, I think there are lots of things that come into place, right? I think there's something about how families interact nowadays, or they don't
Yeah.
most of the times. But if we think about history and how we developed as a society, all stories they were told to us, right? So there was the importance of the oral language and how stories were being told, and then culture was being passed, and then traditions they were being passed. And that's what the nursery rhymes were, right? They are
Yeah.
stories that were told for kids. And so I think the connection with the emotional connection that comes with the nursery rhymes, that comes with the children's stories, that comes with like, oh, like why is Dr. Seuss so cool and so important? And it's not just because, oh, he was an amazing person that found 100 and I don't know how many words and created a whole book about it. And they all rhyme because his mom loved rhyming and he thought it was pretty cool. And oh, he did green eggs and ham. But like, it's all the things that come with this, like all the moments that you were playing with your parents or that you were singing the song with your brother and
Mhm.
sister. And that brings the knowledge together. And I think that learning is not just like, it cannot be, and well, I am a big believer that a kid only learns from people that they trust and love.
Mhm.
So the first thing that I invest my time in my classroom on, it's bonding with my kids. So if I believe that that's how they're going to learn, I have to believe that whatever they leave at home
Mhm.
makes a huge impact on how they're going to acquire language or acquire whatever it is in my classroom.
Yeah.
Right. So the kids that have like parents that talk about mathematics, they are going to think they're awesome in math. The kids that sing songs at home with parents, they are going to bring it all to the classroom,
Mhm.
right? And then if they have never learned or sang or talked about Humpty Dumpty, or like, I don't know, there are so many nursery rhymes and so many stories that we can start talking about. Like, how are they going to make those connections? And how are they going to, as they are sounding out the words, how are they going to figure out, oh no, this is a word I know,
Mhm.
right? So I have kids in my classroom that I do use the telephone a lot, especially with my kids that are that I know that are from different backgrounds. I put them because then they listen to the word. So if they are reading rat, they're like rat, they can hear,
Mhm.
and then they're, oh, then it accesses their memory, and then they remember the word that you're saying, because it's not only about decoding. So I do feel in the classroom that it's missing this piece, but I'm not. I have to research more and study more to actually understand why they are doing that and how, like, when they are doing all, they develop all, and it's amazing. I love doing the U fly with my kids, and I can see how better like spellers they are. They can
Mhm.
spell way better. Like, I have, and I can hear my kids in the classroom. Like, one kid says, "How do I write this?" And the other one like, "Hey, just sound it out." Ah, happy. And they do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing how they have, like, how they independently can do that,
Mhm.
even with
Mhm.
words that they don't know, they have never heard before, but they,
Yeah.
you say the word, they are able to do that. But are they actually learning? Are they actually building, or are they accessing their memory and understanding what they are reading, or they're just becoming amazing decoders?
Yeah. That is something that I have been thinking, because one of the things that I see around, and one of the things that I know that science of reading also criticizes, is when you're using the shape of the word
Mm-hmm.
to help with the spelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I never use the shape of the words, but
I
I
didn't use
use
it
the
yet.
Ilkoning boxes already. So you
Mm-hmm.
have the boxes, and they have to they have to
How
spell
many
the word
sounds?
in sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wondered if the kids were doing that just automatically and not really thinking about what they were writing. And eventually it just rang the bell. They're just doing it automatically. Some of them have no idea what is the word that they're actually writing, but they do it
Mm-hmm.
perfectly. They see a word and they know that b, u, k. They know that's going to be 3 boxes, and they know
Mm-hmm.
because the focus is u spelled with 2 O's,
Yes,
they
yes.
are going to put them in the right boxes. Then they're going to
Mm-hmm.
write the words two times on the side
Yep.
perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But then if it's an EAL kid or ELL, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to say, okay, so what word is this? I don't know.
Yep. Yep. Yes, and that is, I think this is something that we have to think when we are teaching bilingual kids, even though I am not teaching officially bilingual
Officially, yeah.
kids, but I am in my classroom every day. And like there are so many times that parents ask me, "Oh, what can I do with my child?" I'm like, "Oh, your child is decoding perfectly, but can you stop by at the public library and just get like you can get up to $50, you know? So just go there, get $50, take them home and like read with your child. Don't
Yeah.
expect them to read. Like you can read for them. That's okay."
Mm-hmm. They need to be
Because
exposed.
and I think that's where it gets to like where the science of reading says that can you show the equation? I think that's very important because like we are focusing a lot on decoding. Yes.
Wait.
Dun, dun, dun. We are trying something new here today.
Okay, share.
Yay. Okay.
Okay, let me see if I
Um,
can scroll down.
scroll it as
Oh, I
you're
can't.
sharing.
Okay,
No?
so no, let me stop sharing.
Go back. Yeah, well, we're going to share something from the UFly website, so it's there for everybody. And well, if you want, UFly does not have to be, it's not like a license that you have to purchase. Like you can actually purchase the manual and you can start using the manual whenever you want because they believe in giving access to all the kids, right? So this is their website, and all the resources that I use in the classroom, they are available on their website. So you can find all the PDFs, you can find all the PowerPoints, you can find everything that I use in my classroom um, that my district tells us to use, and it's all available on the website and at no cost, so everybody can use it. So that's why I'm sharing. But I do like the equation because it talks about like decoding is one part of the equation, but it has to be with linguistic comprehension. And when you put those two together, then the result are going to be is going to be the reading comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about developing the phonemic awareness of students and working with phonics, it can never come alone.
Mm-hmm. It
And I
cannot
think
be isolated.
it cannot be isolated. And I think with in bilingual settings, we have to be even more aware of that. Than the reading time, the free reading time, where you just grab a book in the middle of the day and say, yeah, I'm going to read that book because I just love this book. And also the intentional reading, right? Where you
Mm-hmm.
are going to get a book and you're going to do a work on who's the character, what's the setting. Like this all has to be combined and they all have to happen with the same intensity because we need those kids not just to be great decoders, we need them to be able to understand what they are reading. We
Mm-hmm.
want them to be able to get the story and see the meaning in it. And that's why I think it's a shame that we don't do the nursery rhymes or sounding or rhyming words or any of those things anymore in kindergarten, because I think that's what's going to be missing in a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like in a little while. But we have not seen the kids yet because the kids there, I think UFly started um, here. I think it's the I think my school got it on their third year, maybe. So they had some pilot schools in the beginning. So this might be what the fourth year. So the kids that were in kindergarten 4 years ago, they are now in third grade, no, fourth grade. So it's I don't think we can see
The results yet.
yet the results or the extent of it. And I don't know if we can compare with the reading programs that they are using
Mm-hmm.
that go along with the phonics
Mm-hmm.
program. So, what are the programs that are being used together, and if they are enough to supplement the linguistic comprehension?
Yeah. And I think this is a one thing that we could discuss for hours and hours. But one of the things that is also something that science of readings criticizes a lot is the use of level books,
Oh yeah,
stages,
we
and
have
all of
no,
that,
we don't have
right?
it.
Because it works mainly with decodables. And I love decodables because the way the kids feel empowered
Yes, it gives
because
them
they can
power. Yeah.
read,
Yep.
but at the same time, I criticize decodables because they don't provide as much vocabulary as a regular book.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same end, if you just use stage books and level books, most of the times they're going to go around the same topics. They are not going to expand, or they're
Yes.
going to use vocabulary that makes no sense for the
Mm-hmm.
kids. For example, one of the programs that I've seen and that I work with has a stage 1 plus. So they start stage 1 first words. So
Mm-hmm.
it's first wordless books, and then it has first words. So it's just like 1 or 2 words per page.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes first sentences. And then it goes 1 plus is when they start with
More than.
repetitions and like
Mm-hmm.
patterns. And then
Mm-hmm.
stage 2, they start having actual stories. They're
Uh-huh.
like 8 pages, but it's
Yeah. The story.
simple stories, but they're stories with beginning,
Mm-hmm.
middle, and end, right? And in one of the 1 plus, I think first sentences, it has paraglider. Like, what? First of all, a kid that is 6 5 6 years old reading a word that is gigantic, they're gonna go
And
like,
they have no idea what a paraglider is.
what is this? They don't know that g is gonna make the gl,
Oh
and
no.
they don't know that I is gonna make the I sound, because they just
No, it
know the
makes,
because that is
yeah.
the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
fifth sound they learn. So they're gonna read
Yep.
that. No, they're not. They're not gonna read that, right? And it's funny to see sometimes how things go weird,
Mm-hmm.
and in an effort to make the kids read better,
Uh-huh.
sometimes weird measures are taken,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to use um, the concept of sight words,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see yourself teaching gigantic words that kids have to just memorize by sight.
Yeah. And then it goes all wrong.
And
Yes.
in an attempt to try and make sense of that,
Uh-huh.
some teachers go and say, okay, so I'm going to introduce the concept of heart words,
Uh-huh.
right? To try to, because they're probably going to be able to read those words because they're going to practice, they're going to memorize those words. But whenever they have
Mm-hmm.
to write those words,
They
they
won't know it.
won't
Yep.
be able to.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about the idea of the heart words? Because I know that the heart
Yes.
words have a big space in
Yes.
science of reading as well.
Yeah, well, the heart words are the words you know by heart. Every time we talk about it in the classroom, it's like, guys, we're now gonna learn a new heart word. Remember, the heart words are what? And they all make their little heart. Words you know by heart.
Do they
So,
still do
uh,
the hearts like these, or do they do the hearts like
oh
that?
no, no, no. In this moment of the class, it's me, and I say like this because I want to see it. If you just do this, I won't see it. I want to see the heart, and show me where the heart is, because then I teach them where left is as well. I do all the things at the same time. But I think the interesting part of the introduction of the heart words is that um, we analyze how the words, like what parts of the words are irregular. So if I have the word, um, oh, we did have was. I had was last week, and it was like, oh, W had a square underneath, and S had a square underneath because we already learned the S can sound like S or Z at the end of words. And we learned the W and we know that it sounds like W. So we had those two sounds and they had a square because those are the sounds that they make. But then under A, we had a heart. So we learned how to analyze what part of the word is heart and why is it a heart? Because it makes a sound that we don't know yet. So when we learned a lot about look and book, we also had the heart under the two O's because we haven't learned them yet. But in the beginning of the year, we learned is as one of our hard words because we need the word is for our decodables,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they start introducing as we need them. So we had to, do, me, be, those words that help making stories, right? So then when we had the word, oh, I forgot what word to say.
Was?
So the word is in the
Is.
beginning of the year, we did not know I, we did not know S, and we did not know the S sounds like Z at the end, so we couldn't be is. So it was a hard word for a long time. But now we learned the S already, and we learned that it makes two sounds. And then sometimes, like when I'm with the decodable part, the first thing that we always do is circle the hard words. So they get a red crayon, and we circle all the hard words so we can read those words. So we know that those words when we are reading the text, those are words that we already know. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
to spend time on them. So then to this day, my kids say, Miss Pinto, this is not a hard word anymore, right? Because we learned the S can sound like a Z. You're like, yes, there you go. So we don't have to say that
Mm-hmm.
every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like making them aware of what parts of the word are actually irregular.
Yeah.
And it's not just a list of words that I have to memorize.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different from the high frequency words or the
Yeah.
sight words from the past. So it's making you aware of the sounds and that they can be different and why are they different or how are they different
Mm-hmm.
and why this is not a regular sound. So it's I think it makes the kids more aware and gives them more independence to understand that sometimes some letters are going to sound different.
Yeah.
And then I can access those words that I have in my memory or that I
Mm-hmm.
have that I've seen already somewhere.
And it's funny because the kids get so used to using those terms that sometimes they're writing a text and they go, Miss, is wood heartward? I go, it is. Ah, okay. Now I have to think
Yes.
more, or I have to look at the wall to see if it's one of the words that
Yes.
we have to use a lot, but
Uh-huh.
they don't follow the sounds as
The
usual.
pattern. Yep.
And it's interesting that some people still don't understand, or they were never explicitly taught that any word will become a sight word,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because once you automatize the reading of that word, it becomes a sight word. So it's just a matter. I have, I don't know how many students. So I teach Form 1, right? They're first
Mm-hmm.
grade. And I still have some kids that come reading k, at, is, n, t, h, no, the, at, mat.
Mm-hmm.
And because some of them weren't um, taught since the beginning
Mm-hmm.
that they don't need to sound out every single thing
Mm-hmm.
after some time, right? I have kids
Yes.
that are reading very complex words already because they know lots of sounds,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but they still think that it's okay for them to read like that. And
Uh-huh.
we have to tell them, look, if you want to sound it out, fine, but do it in your head.
Yeah.
You just say it out loud when you put it together, okay? Okay.
I usually
And
go from the sound from the segmenting to the slow motion, and they love it because I'm like, you are at now we're gonna slow motion it. At oh, it's the same word, and then so they start reading in slow motion for them to understand that it's the same word. Like
mm-hmm,
it's not just the sounds. I just like I'm not assessing or I'm not looking to see if you know the sounds. I'm looking to see if you can use the sounds.
yeah.
So
But
if you read it together,
that's one
that's my
thing
goal.
that if you just work the programs in isolation. So if you're just
Hmm.
teaching phonics through a systematic um, Synthetic, no. Synthetic.
Synthetic.
Oh my
Uh-huh.
God, these words. The synthetic phonics, because you're breaking them down
Mm-hmm.
and you're not exposing them to a lot of reading. If you're not exposing them to guided reading moments where you are going
Mm-hmm.
to read together and share and work on the
Mm-hmm.
meaning, work on the grammar, work on the comprehension, all of
Mm-hmm.
that. If you're not focusing on all the things, the kids are going to think that that's the only possible way to do things,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a battle, but it's funny
Yes.
when they just click it, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, I don't need to do that anymore."
Yeah. I
Um,
had a kid in the beginning of the year that he was like, he was still like making few sounds. He didn't know much. And then we do with them kind of like every 5 lessons or why not? Like we have a list of words with the sounds, and I just call them and check one by one to see if they can read that word or right. And then I have a pair that comes in my classroom. Well, we have one pair for the 4 classroom, so she's in my classroom once a week or so if she's not pulled out for other things. And so she assessed him in the beginning of the year, and she's like, "Ooh, we're gonna have to work with him because blah blah." And we talked about him, and then she came now last week, and she's like, oh, "Was that him? I cannot believe he's reading like this." And we were so proud because it's so beautiful to see when they actually can make the connection, and you see that it's like it's both things happening at the same time. Like they are decoding, they are doing like the analytical part of the process, but they are also like working on their brain to understand the meaning and to get more vocabulary and to be introduced to more things. So it's beautiful to see when they can do it.
yeah, and it's interesting to see as well when they make the transfer between languages and when they're using
Yes.
things interchangeably. It's really, really nice. Um,
Yes.
I remember when you were talking, I remember about something, but now I forgot. I wonder why. Uh, one of the things that I would like to mention as well, thinking about songs and
Hmm.
how powerful they can be.
Hmm.
I started using songs in my classroom as a kind of classroom management thing,
Hmm.
and it works so well.
Oh, uh-huh.
So, for example, dismissal, they have um, their cubbies are out of the classroom.
Okay.
So the bags, everything stays outside.
Hmm.
So during dismissal, they have to get their things ready. So they go get the bags and they need to get the water bottle, the reading folder, and everything and put and get organized. And I'm not going to say that things are perfect because they're not. They're far from perfect. And we have to remember that the kids that are in our classrooms now, they are the COVID kids as well, right? And
Yes.
it is a big difference. It is. It's insane.
Yes.
But it was always very chaotic when I told them, okay, go get your bags and get ready for
Hmm.
dismissal. I had all sorts of incidents.
Hmm.
So then I started using a song. So do you mind if I just share this with people?
No, of course
Okay,
not.
so my kids they wear uniform, but the uniform can be in different colors. The T-shirt can be different
Uh-huh.
colors. So I just sing. Blue, blue is the color I see. If you are wearing blue, then show it to me. Stand up, go get your bag. Do it sensibly and then come back. It's a life-changing moment. It's a
That
game
is so
changer
cool.
because now they know that they cannot just stand up and run.
Hmm.
They know that they have to respect, otherwise, I'll stop the song in the middle and then
Uh-huh.
nothing will
Nobody
happen.
moves.
And then when I had my first parent evenings, I had a
Hmm.
mom saying, Miss, can you please explain exactly to my son what you're singing? Because he just follows, but he has no clue what you're saying. And then I wrote the song
Uh-huh.
on the board, and he was reading and going, "Oh, now I understand.
That's what it
Now it
says.
makes sense." And he's from South Korea, so
Uh-huh.
English is not his first language.
Yes.
Uh, and it's funny how we also take things for granted, right? I was
Yes.
singing the song. He was following it. He
Yeah.
understood it.
Uh-huh.
But only when I wrote it down, it
And
actually
he could
made
see it.
sense to him.
Oh, that is so cool.
So that's another thing. When you're using songs with your students, even if they are not ready to read and write, because they're
Mm-hmm.
younger than kindergarten, for example,
Mm-hmm.
show it to them,
Yeah.
because
And there
that's
is a
going to
rhythm.
prep them.
There's something that connects with more than it's music, right? It connects with your emotions. It connects to so many other things. So it's beautiful. There's I don't know if you know that, but there is research now saying that if you can choose between putting your child into coding or learning an instrument, you should put them to learn an instrument because coding is never going to develop the part of the brain that music is. And parents are going insane because it's like, oh, I want my child to code, code, code. Like, if your child plays an instrument, they're going to be able to code. But if they code, there's so many things they're not going to be able to do because they haven't developed that part of the brain. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. But
Yeah.
we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, because I have lots to discuss and share about that
I would love to
as
know
well.
more about that.
But I think it's time for us to wrap this up.
Yes.
Um, we just actually started talking about strategies and things, and we would like to
Mhm.
know from you what things you use in your classroom that make sense and things that you just follow the book, but
Or things that
you
you want to know more about.
yeah. So please join in, comment, send your ideas, send your queries, send your doubts, send your
Uh-huh.
love to us. We also
Yes.
appreciate that. And thank you very much for staying with us.
Thank you. Bye bye.